Welcome to Get Your House in Order, where the Medici brothers, investors and entrepreneurs Chris Auditore and Dr. Philip Zimmermann discuss timeless principles of success, significance and legacy. A podcast for business owners who want to design a beautiful life and a beautiful business. Sponsored by the one and only exclusive Medici community.
Welcome back to Get Your House in Order, where we are talking about designing a beautiful life and a beautiful business. And today I'm actually really excited because we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects. We're going to talk about the house of influence. Now, back in the day, I was around 17 years old, Chris, you remember. I, for the first time in my life, was kind of given the responsibility of being a leader of a group of people.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, a whole new world started for me because I realized I need to learn how to lead people. And one of the first definitions, I think it was by John Maxwell, who said leadership is influence. So if nobody is following you, you are just going for a walk. You need to influence people, and that's the role of leadership. And when I realized that there are actually ways, strategies, principles, rules around the subject of how to ethically influence, a whole new world started.
Well,
now,
you actually have a doctorate in leadership. So
well,
you went to university.
I went deep. I went deep with this, and for Germans, this is a touchy subject because even the German word for leadership is Führungskraft. We don't have another word, and we know we had one Führer too many. So in Germany, you actually think immediately when it comes to leadership and influence. You think of manipulation. You think of bad leadership. So we have a very weak culture. That's why most of it came out of the English market. The leadership books. You couldn't study it in Germany at the time. So I actually studied in the U.S. Strategic leadership. Got my doctorate there because in Germany nobody would even touch really that subject. Management, yeah, there was still a little bit management going on, but really leadership and influence and so the third house. So in the first in the last episodes we talked about Cosimo de' Medici that you studied. And the different houses that he had in order and that he kind of set up that you take people through when we take people to Florence. And the third house is the Signoria, the house of influence. So just give us a little bit feedback of the Signoria.
Well, up to this day, the Signoria, or Palazzo Vecchio, how it was called back then, it was the powerhouse in the city of Florence. So it's still today the mayor of Florence and resides in the Signoria. It is the political center of Tuscany. And during Cosimo's time, obviously this was even larger than just the city. It was kind of a city-state. Florence was a republic back then, and it was a representation system of many families being represented from the different guilds in the House of Parliament, in the political center here. And Cosimo, as a business guy, started influencing politically what was happening in the city. And again, this is a subject that oftentimes we as business people, we don't talk about that much, kind of politics and business. Sometimes these are kind of worlds apart. Either you are in business or you're in politics. I know lots of business guys who want to stay away as far as possible from politics. But back then, it was kind of intermingled. And Cosimo, as a business guy, started influencing politically. In fact, I think the mantra of the whole Medici family was that they kind of put out the slogan that whatever is good for Florence is good for the Medici family, and what is good for the Medici family is good for the city of Florence. So, in a sense, they also said that their private interest and their public interest go together. And this is a very interesting statement. If I ask you about your private interest, it may be different from your public interest. Well, one of the things that I took from Cosimo is that he's so identified with the city and with his region and what he wanted to see happening that he actually had to use the instruments of influence in order to accomplish that. And there are some lessons for us to learn.
Well, and this whole idea that it's not just about me and my family getting successful and making a lot of money and everything can go down the tube, and we've seen businesses set up where they didn't care about the community, they didn't care about the impact that they maybe had on the environment or on different spheres, and all of a sudden the city was not better off because of the business. This idea to say we are here to actually make this world also and the sphere of influence that we have more beautiful. It's just it is a little
well, we've got power. So as business people and you know, we speak here to entrepreneurs and business owners. We have instruments at our disposal in order to change this world for the better, and we need to make use of those. Some of that may be money, because we can do investments and we can you know, build out great products and great services. But beyond that, we can also speak up and get involved in the political affairs of our place.
Well, at our last gathering in Florence, the former Prime Minister of the Slovakia was with us.
Eduard Heger, yes.
Yeah, for the whole time, and I did a bunch of kind of roundtable interviews and conversations with him and with our community. And the number one thing he had was kind of one of his pleas was to say, you guys as business and girls as business owners, you don't know how much influence and power you actually have on how the things in a city, in a country should actually go. He made that so there was such a strong plea that he said we need to get involved because we actually have, and if we don't get involved, other people will, and it will go into a way maybe that is not as good.
I can confess that for many years, me setting up companies, I've not been involved politically in Bad Homburg, where we're from as a family. Frankfurt, just outside of Frankfurt, Germany. I've not been involved very politically. On the non-profit side, you know, religious side, faith-based side, we've helped a bunch of things. So philanthropically, we've helped. But politically, I've always stayed away because I always felt like, oh man, I don't want to get into that messy turf. And quite honestly, at the moment, you know, this world also, the political divides, the political conflicts in the different countries. So I was just last week in the U.S. And kind of doing the election of Trump, and things, you know, things are quite divided. And I know a lot of business guys, me included, who we just want to stay away. Now the problem is, if we stay away, some crazy people start running our countries or start running our cities. So I actually plead, and I'm developing myself in this and learning about this. And Eduard Heger, you know, he's a great example of someone who's teaching us on that. Is we need to, you know, make use of these instruments and actually get involved.
Well, I feel the one of the reasons why we don't want to get involved is because most of our countries, most probably that are listening, are more democracies, and in a democracy, it's not your way. It's basically, and coming as a business person, you normally are used to getting your way. A compromise is a bad term in business sometimes, when I feel like I have to compromise my vision or my product or what I want to accomplish. And in political terms, well, you need a compromise in a democracy in order to move things forward. But it's not just about politics. It's really about this idea that you have, that we all, and that's why I don't want to lose anybody here, because we all, even the most introverted person, influences hundreds of people during the year and during our lifetime. We influence people, and I kind of normally say that we are, people are like an elevator. You know, sometimes you step in, and some people, they take you up. When you leave, you're in a much better mood. You feel like excited about life, about what's possible. And some people, you step in and they take you down into the basement, and you feel like crap, and you feel like they are. So I always ask, are you somebody who takes you me up, or are you somebody who takes me down? So we all know that you saw somebody in the supermarket and you hid behind the counter because you didn't want to see them, because you knew they are kind of I call them the Ghostbusters. They suck that energy out of you and leave you behind. So we all influence people in a way, and so the question really is, how do we use our influence for creating a more beautiful life and a more beautiful business?
Well, and because we're addressing here this to people who create products and create services, by now we all know that where we produce our products actually matters. What kind of materials we use in our products actually matters. Who actually pays the price for our cheap production also matters. And so there has been this whole wave over the last few years where in a globalized world, we cannot basically close our eyes and just say, oh yeah, there are people, I don't know, in India and Africa, on cheap labor. I remember, Philip, years ago, we were the first ones in the city of Mainz of opening up the first fair trade coffee shop. And kind of this whole idea of fair trade, that we don't just want to have cheap coffee on the expense of someone else paying a high price in a poorer country, but we actually want to elevate the status and even want to see the whole supply chain in a good way. So in a sense, that is also influence that we have as business people. Where do we buy from? Who do we buy from? Which countries do we choose to do business with? I think it speaks a lot of the influence we have. It is connected with money, but it goes beyond money. It goes into some crucial decisions that we actually have to make. And so one of the chapters actually under the Signoria is make bloody decisions.
Yes, make bloody decisions. Talk to us about make bloody decisions and which room and how did you study from Cosimo, how he made bloody decisions. And I love every time in our community we talk about making bloody decisions. Everybody kind of knows. They don't have to think a lot. There are some decisions that we want to push away because they don't feel comfortable. What we know in our gut we need to make, but we're not making them.
Oh, for years I always had that at the end of the year. So kind of the reflection between Christmas and New Year's Eve is kind of, okay, there's some stuff that I need to leave behind in the old year in order to start fresh in the new year. So I always went through this cycle, and it's normally 2 days, basically in between Christmas and New Year's, where I take reflection. I go away with my notebook, and I just really kind of go through the calendar of last year, go through day by day, week by week, month by month, look at all the appointments, all the stuff that I kind of did throughout that year, and I kind of ask myself, what do I need to change for the next year? Where do I need to make a bloody decision and just cut something off, close down a project, terminate a relationship, terminate an investment, and really kind of have a fresh start.
Yeah.
And there's always something that I've pushed away. Let me be honest here. Look, there's always some stuff where I know, oh man, I've been dragging my feet on this, but I actually need to do something. And so, I think it's a very healthy rhythm for us to, on a regular basis, kind of evaluate where do we, in order to have great impact in the world, in order to do the great projects we want to do, where do we need to, cut some things off? Where do we need to step up? Where do we need to expand? Where do we need to move on?
Well, part of our community, the Medici community, every December they actually get a whole workbook on just how to do a yearly reflection. How do you actually reflect on the past year to really assess what did I learn, what went well, what didn't go well, and then how do I actually plan and set myself up for the next year. And one of the questions is actually a question that I've been asking myself for the last 15 years at least. Every year is, who do I need to forgive? And that is a bloody decision, because
in business we always have
we always have
we need to forgive.
We always have people that maybe don't treat us the way we want to be treated, some things that go sour, some conflicts, and I don't want to take that crap into the next year. And so I strategically ask myself, who do I need to forgive, and then make that bloody decision, because it doesn't feel good at all. That's why I say it's a decision to say, okay, this other person, that's one definition of forgiveness, is that I decide that the other person doesn't owe me anything anymore. It doesn't mean that it was okay what the other person did. It doesn't say that he or she didn't owe me something. It says, yes, there was a mistake. There was hurt. There was maybe something really bad that happened. But I decide that person doesn't owe me anything. And it's not about reconciliation. That's a whole different process. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's about forgiveness. It's about me being free. That I can start a whole new year. What are other bloody decisions that you feel business owners need to make on a regular basis, or at least think through if there are areas where they need to do that?
Well, let's talk about employees. We have influence with people that we employ. We're the boss, and so we have people that depend on the paycheck, and we depend on the work that they do. So there's obviously this relationship with people that work with us or for us, and quite honestly, there are some people who shouldn't be working with us anymore. Kind of one of the reflections. Who do you need to let go of the team? And oftentimes these are difficult conversations that we don't want to have. We just want to keep everyone on board. We want to keep everyone happy. But we all know you can't please everyone in business, and it's actually quite healthy, not just for ourselves, not just for the company, but also for our employees. My experience is that if I don't feel good about a situation with an employee, that probably the employee also doesn't feel good. And so then it can be actually a great relief to just say, we need to finish something off here. It was good for a season, and now we need to open up a new season. And that's a bloody decision. Who do you let go?
Yeah, a great question that I learned from, I don't know who back in the day, was when it comes to employees, to ask yourself this question. After knowing everything that I know now, would I hire this person again? Go through your employees and the people who report to you and ask that question. Now, after working with them maybe for years, after everything you know, would you hire them again? If the answer is no, you need to make a plan to let them go and change them. If the answer is, I don't know, I'm uncertain, well, then ask yourself the question in 2 months. And if the answer is still, I'm not sure, you need to let them go. A lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are afraid of letting people go because they feel like, I don't know exactly what they are doing. I don't know how I can replace them. So it's actually fear that is holding them back, making a bloody decision.
Oh, and I can say, looking back over 20 years of employing people, that some of my biggest regrets is that I didn't let people go quick enough. It's my responsibility to keep my house in order. I mean, the book is called "Get Your House in Order." You need to look at what's happening within your house.
Yeah.
What's happening within the people that you employ. And there are things that need to be addressed.
So one of the things that I do when I'm daily journaling is I'm asking the question, what frustrates me?
Mm-hmm.
And I write down the things that are frustrating. And when I do my weekly and monthly kind of review, I look at the things that frustrate me, and I'm asking myself, okay, what is the bloody decision that I need to make so that this doesn't keep frustrating me? Is this something that I can actually do? Can I design, going back to designing actually our lives and our business, is that something I can actively change so that it doesn't frustrate me? Because I meet some people that talk to me about what frustrates them for the last 15 years is the same thing. And I'm like, why are you not changing it? And often it's the self-reflection. And that's why I'm such a big fan of journaling, of actually writing down what is the emotion and the feeling that really is kind of driving this, and how can you change it?
Well, and that's why we even send out these workbooks as part of the Medici community, and even the monthly magazines. There's always some blank space for us to be thinking through. Now, here's what happens in my life as well as in your life. We're just extremely busy with all kinds of stuff that we're doing, and so the time for reflection and to kind of, where do we need to change something? We're dragging our feet on that, and so the more time we can actually take offsite in order to do that, the better it is. And the goal behind that is we want to increase our influence. Okay, so let me get back to the topic here of influence. Influence is an extremely positive word for me. So I know we come out of Germany, and there was a Führer who was a bad influencer for this world. But in general, influence is something great. We can create great things in this world. We can save lives. Okay, we as a family, we're very passionate about Africa because our family's from Africa. My grandparents lived down there. Our mom was born down there. So we've always had a big interest in Africa and the development of Africa. Now, we've helped with some companies being launched in Africa. We've helped on the non-profit side with supporting churches and hospitals and schools. There's a whole bunch of things. This is actually us exercising influence here from Europe. Living in Europe, we could kind of blend out that there's this big continent, Africa, down south, and we could just, keep building our own lives and doing our own stuff. But we actually take it as a responsibility because of our family heritage that we actually want to be involved in Africa. We want to do things in Africa. So, that's why we're helping with, at the moment, the hospital project, the school projects that we're helping. We want to use our means, and some of this is money. Sending money, helping on the philanthropic side, but then also our influence. I've probably taken 120, 130 people from Germany with me to the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, to Goma, northeastern part, northern Kivu, on the border of Rwanda.
One of the most dangerous places
in the world, yes. Yeah. And I've used my influence back in Germany in order to network with people and say, hey guys, in the summer, let's take a trip down there and let's help in schools and hospitals and non-profit projects and actually help these people down there. So I've not just used my money, but I've also used kind of my social status and the relationships that I've formed and the people that I'm with to say, hey, let's do something. I've probably taken 20 doctors with me to do surgeries. Thousands of surgeries have happened down there. And it is because I've made use of the influence that I have. And so one of the questions I like to ask business guys is like, what are you passionate about that you want to get involved with in this world? And then, use your gifts. As entrepreneurs, we have gifts that other people do not have. We all know that only less than 5% of people in society are entrepreneurs. Okay, the rest, quite happy with a paycheck on a regular basis. But 5% of us are entrepreneurs and business owners. We're creators. So we have tools at our disposal that how to put projects together, how to put companies together, how to put services together in order to change something in the world. So one of the questions is, where are we doing that beyond our, kind of home territory, beyond our just business, and for something where, that breaks our heart, that really kind of stirs us, that where we say we need to get involved here.
Well, I remember actually, there was a time we actually organized trips all over the world where we did teams to really just help from Germany. So hundreds of people we sent all over the world. My wife actually was overseeing that, and I remember having the conversation in the whirlpool with another Medici. Michael,
you had a whirlpool conversation.
We had a whirlpool conversation because a lot of these, because we were like, we need to go somewhere, but we don't want to work with our hands. We don't want to, normally in some of these places you would just build a house, build a hospital, and we didn't want to build something. So we thought, okay, what could we do to really help rather than. And kind of started to dream up of what later became a whole movement, the Impact Week, where we would go to universities and kind of so I was part of the first one. We went to Kenya and teaching design thinking to business students who would create new business ideas to solve local problems, and then kind of they pitching us and we kind of even funding their first their first start and launch of putting them into an incubator. And I remember the first university we went to in Kenya, called African Nazarene University, a university that by now is a very, very well recognized university. I remember even when we were there a long time ago, they told us that when Obama was president and he was supposed to speak in Kenya, he spoke at a university, and they were in second place. They came second place on actually him speaking there. So very well recognized private university that actually our grandfather helped
There's actually a play dedicated to him on the
yes. So I
compound of the
remember
university.
standing at one of the dorm halls that had his name above. So his whole dorm hall, I think boys' dorm hall, was called after Dr. Zenner, our grandfather. And I was standing there, remember, realizing, wow, he used his influence, and years later, there's an unbelievable university that is recognized all over the world for what they're doing, and it kind of, that question haunts us also as a family in a positive way. Okay, we are, especially in the Western world, we have all these resources, we have all this knowledge, we have everything, and I'm not talking just about, the financial resources, but we actually have influence to do something, and we need to do something. We need to make this world more beautiful rather than
I can give you another example of a recent trip that I had to the US, and I was with a very successful business owner who just exited his company, and actually on his compound where he lives with his family, there's a fence, and then on the other side of the fence there's a school. There's a school that I think 15 years ago he started. By now it has 700 students that go to school. It's a private school, basically next to his compound. And I think he's still the chairman of the board there, or kind of at least helping on some of the governance. But he, as a business guy, started a school in his neighborhood to help education. I took a walk through that school, and what I fell in love with is the library that he put together. Okay, everyone knows who's kind of following me around that I'm a big fan of books. There's a whole chapter in the book here, Hunt for Books. I'm crazy about books. So I took this walk through this library that he's put together, or that they've put together there at the school, and there was all the classic world literature, and I was pulling one book out after the other. And I'm like, this is fantastic. You as a business guy sponsor a school, help a school, and then you put this incredible library there for students to learn and be educated in world literature. And I remember I called my wife, I called Andrea and said, hey, we need to do something here with our boys' schools. We need to put a library there, and we need to, finance some books, because actually that is so important that the next generations really get access to great literature. So, I was very inspired on that. But it's a business person using his influence, creating a school, creating a project. Sometimes this can be for-profit, sometimes non-profit. I mean, we are also, as a family, hugely involved in all kinds of philanthropic things. We've set up our family foundation in order to support projects all over, and there are things we can do with our influence that actually change people's lives.
Yeah. So. Don't listen to the lie that you don't have influence. If you already know that you have influence in business, there are certain skills and certain gifts that only you have, and the world needs them. There are some problems. So I often ask people, if what breaks your heart. So we all have, because of our personality, maybe our history, there are some things in the world that are not right, that break our heart more than others. Other things. So there are things that really are dear to you. Human trafficking is one for us also as a family that is dear to us. So what is that? What really is a problem? What you see and identify, and then knowing what kind of a superpower you have. How with your gifts, with your talents, how can you actually help? Start in a small way to use your influence, either find a non-profit to help, to support, to kind of encourage, and all of a sudden you can see that you can build a legacy that is much greater than your own business. This is great. So we didn't even come to the two other house rules. So if you want to find out what they are, you can get the book at not Get Your House in Order, but medicibook.com. You can actually download it for free. If you want to hear more about the Medici community and want to join Chris for a trip in Florence, go to medicilegacy.com. And in the next episode, we will talk about actually business, because the bedrock of Cosimo de' Medici's success and the legacy is actually business and how they set up their business. So I'm looking forward to that conversation.